Inside Track with internationally acclaimed automotive journalists Ted Laturnus and Tony Whitney. Puts you in the driver's seat. Mazda 626, Oldsmobile Silhouette, Infiniti G20, and Car Care with Marybeth Harrison.
Welcome to Ted and Tony's Inside Track. I'm Tony Whitney.
And I'm Ted Laturnus.
On today's show, we're going to look at two family vehicles, but two very different types of family vehicles, a minivan and a four-door sedan. And first up is Ted with the Mazda 626.
A lot of buyers, when they go shopping for a compact sedan, tend to overlook the Mazda 626, which is a bit of a shame because this is a nice little package. And for $1998, the 626 gets a complete redesign.
If the new 626 looks a little familiar to you, that's probably because Mazda stylists have taken a page from the upscale Millennia sedan styling book and cleaned up the lines of their mid-price sedan. It's also slightly larger with increased wheelbase, overall length, and track. It's not as spacious as the Millennia, but it does have a roomier trunk than it used to, 14.2 cubic feet in total, and it also has increased interior dimensions. This is a good thing. I always felt the former generation of 626 was too small to compete effectively in the intermediate marketplace. Mazda even has a name for their new revamped interior layout. They call it, and I quote, OptiSpace. The idea being to maximize interior elbow room while minimizing the space needed for mechanical components. And certainly there is plenty of space in the 626, although I found headroom in the back seat to be in rather short supply.
Well, here's something you don't see every day. The 626 has a built-in oscillator on the flow-through ventilation, so that you push this button here, and the ventilator goes back and forth to circulate throughout the entire cab of the car. It's quite interesting. Vane goes this way. Vane goes that way. Vane goes this way. Vane goes that way.
Although it was styled by Mazda in Japan, the new 626 is built in Flat Rock, Michigan, and is a joint project between Ford and Mazda. There are two power plants offered, a 2-liter dual overhead camshaft 4-cylinder, 4 valves per cylinder, and a dual overhead camshaft 2.5-liter V6, also with 4 valves per cylinder. They develop 125 horsepower and 170 horsepower respectively. Our top-of-the-line ES model came with a V6 engine mated to a 4-speed automatic transmission, but there is a 5-speed manual available. Mazda claims a 0 to 60 time of just under 8 seconds for the V6 manual gearbox model, which ain't too shabby. Mazda has also redone the suspension of the 626 with McPherson struts up front and a twin-link setup in the back. There are front and rear stabilizer bars, and the car definitely feels firmer than the last version. Stopping duties are handled by front discs and rear drums, except for the V6 models, which receive 4-wheel disc brakes. ABS is available with all 4 models, and the ES has an optional traction control system that can be deactivated via a dash-mounted button. All models have airbags as standard issue. Fuel consumption, always an issue in this market, is decent, but not exemplary. The 5-speed manual 4-cylinder model will return 9 liters per 100 kilometers, or 31 miles per gallon in the city, while the V6 Autobox combination delivers 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, or 33 miles per gallon on the highway. Obviously, the four-banger will spend much less time at the pumps. The new Mazda 626 represents the first overhaul of this car since 1992. Most Japanese manufacturers redo their models at least every 4 years. I guess Mazda likes to keep things until the bitter end.
It's no secret that the past few years have been tough ones for Mazda, but they seem to be turning themselves around, and the new 626 is definitely a step in the right direction.
Well, Tony, I think Mazda finally hit their stride with the new 626. This is the best one they've come up with yet, and I think this car is the equal to anything else in this market category. I was quite impressed with it. Well, it is nice, and I think that Mazda, as you rightly say, is overlooked sometimes among the Camrys and the Accords and so on.
I like the way they brought the styling cues from the Millennia, because I think Millennia is one of my favorite cars and my favorite style cars in that class. The car looks wonderful. I like the interior features. And I might say also that I bought a brand new Mazda once myself, and of all the cars I've ever owned, and there's been lots of them, it was the one car that I never had to tighten a screw on this thing. It was so well put together, so they are good products.
Yeah, it's interesting that Mazda have looked back to the Protégé for their interior design, trying to get maximum efficiency in minimum space, and I think they've done a heck of a job, but the Protégé is smaller than the 626, and it's quite interesting they would go back to an entry-level car to design a midsize. I mean, they're obviously awake and alive at Mazda, although the past couple of years have been a little rough, but they're doing
Well,
things.
that's true, yeah, they're great cars. I do like the oscillating vents you so well pointed out there. That's been a feature of 626s for a long time now. The one thing I regret about this car is that you can only get it as a sedan, and remember once upon a time there was a really great 5-door hatchback.
Right.
And I had several friends who owned these, and when Mazda stopped bringing that vehicle in, it's still sold in other markets, they moved on to something other than a Mazda. So they lost some business like that, and I think that's a shame. It was a great product.
Well, I think, unfortunately, the 5-door hatchback has gone the way of the great Arc. I mean, I just don't think we're going to see it anymore. It was an unusual design, very practical, but you're not going to see that again. I think if they did anything, they would probably go to a station wagon. I mean, that would be the logical
Well,
thing.
possibly, but the Saab does pretty well with 5-door hatchbacks. But
Yeah,
not to belabor the point, I think the car is very well designed and handles well. And I think the 4-cylinder engine is perhaps adequate for most people's needs.
Adequate.
If you're carrying a lot of people, you have teenage children or something like that, you go on a lot of holiday trips, maybe you want to go for the V6. There's not much wrong with that 4, is there?
No, I want people to realize that if you're in the market for a mid-size sedan, you know, Accord is fine, and so is Altima, but this is every bit as good a car, and don't overlook it, because you'll be, you know, cheating yourself, because this is worth spending some time on.
I agree. Put Mazda on your list, and on that note, we'll move on.
Well, next up, Tony and I go to the track to have a look at the new Infiniti G20. Stay with us.
This Speedvision program is brought to you by Purolator. Pure oil now, pure oil later. Purolator.
The year was 1923. The automobile was changing America, and Purolator invents the oil filter, coining the phrase, pure oil now, pure oil later. Purolator. And the rest is history. After all, we invented the business.
Hi, I'm Ken Schrader. And I'm Mike Wallace. We'd like to congratulate Purolator on 75 years in business and your involvement in racing. You've been there for the sport, and you've been there for the customer. So happy anniversary, Purolator, and congratulations on 75 years of being the leader.
Wild energy fuels the Outdoor Life Network. See America's animals in action on their home turf. Sprint across the French countryside. Roll through an extreme high-stakes Rocky Mountain bike odyssey. Hit the mark in Germany with the world's top horses and jumpstart your heart equestrian style in Virginia. We're on the move all October, only on the Outdoor Life Network. Call your satellite distributor or cable operator.
Two years ago, Nissan discontinued their G20 sports sedan, but they're back, and we're at the Seattle International Raceway to put this new Infiniti G20 through its paces.
And you know, an automaker has to be pretty confident about its products to bring you to a track like this to try the car, because it's a pretty tight little track, pretty tough, pretty gnarly, but we're going to try it.
Let's see what it can do, Tony.
Right on, Ted.
Introduced in 1991 and discontinued 5 years later, the G20 was one of those cars that had a lot going for it, but never really fired the imaginations of North American buyers. Known as the Primera in Europe, it garnered a number of European awards for its handling and performance, but in North America was relegated to niche car status. After spending a year re-evaluating the G20 and completely overhauling it from stem to stern, Nissan has reintroduced it for the 1999 model year. New body style, new suspension setup, new interior layout, and a slightly refined drivetrain all add up to a very drivable sports sedan that Nissan boasts will leave the likes of the BMW 3 Series and Audi A4 in the dust. The new G20 will initially be offered in two variations, touring and luxury. Basically, what separates the two is equipment level. The luxury has no options and comes fully loaded, while the touring can be had with any number of goodies, including leather interior, heated front seats, and so on. Standard equipment on both models includes power windows and door locks, air conditioning, anti-theft system, four-wheel disc brakes, and a 60/40 folding rear seat. What makes all the difference in the G20's handling prowess is a new rear multi-link suspension, which is taken from the company's upscale i30 luxury sedan. Front suspension duties are handled by a similar setup borrowed from the discontinued 300ZX. Nissan engineers apparently lived at the Nürburgring racetrack in Germany to refine the G20 suspension and virtually eliminated the undesirable weight transfer that came with the former person strut arrangement. Oversized vented front disc brakes and recalibrated steering geometry add to the car's agility. Nissan wanted the G20 to set new standards for handling, and they may have accomplished their goals. Although it's reasonably peppy, the G20 could use a power boost. Nissan has decided to retain the 2-liter twin-cam 4-cylinder engine that propelled the original. Like its predecessor, it develops 140 horsepower at 6,400 RPM and is adequate for a car of this size, but not exceptional. By way of comparison, BMW's 318 puts out 138 horsepower and the Audi A4 150 horsepower. 2 transmissions are offered, 4-speed automatic and 5-speed manual. Stylistically, Infiniti hasn't broken any new ground with the G20. If it can keep up to the 318 and A4 through the corners, it loses ground to them both in the eye candy sweepstakes. It's, well, uninspiring to look at, and I sometimes wish Japanese designers would throw caution to the winds and step out a little when they reskin their cars. When you get into this market segment, cars have to look expensive. The G20 falls a little short of the mark here. Whether the G20 can break away from its niche car status remains to be seen, but one thing is for sure, it can run with the big dogs now.
We've dragged Marybeth Harrison away from the racetrack for another feature.
Now you can have your very own cellular phone absolutely free.
Finally, a cell phone I can afford.
No deposit, no credit check, no turn downs. Just one great phone totally free. Now you can have the security and convenience of your own free cellular phone.
This is definitely the way to go.
With Quintel Cellular, there's no activation fee, and your cellular phone is free.
Now I'm back in business.
Compact, memory features.
It has everything you need or want in your cellular phone. Call now and find out how you can get your very own Quintel Cellular phone for free. There's no deposit, no credit check, no turn downs, no activation fee. Just one great phone, absolutely free. Call now.
Call 1-800-279-9633.
Performing a launch status check. You have a range clear to launch. Mark. DLX is go for auto sequence and Roger, go with power. Copy, distance, negative 310.
Cooling system trouble. That could be expensive. And yet, with regular care, it's one of the easiest things to prevent. The cooling system circulates water through the engine block and cylinder head to prevent engine overheating. It's made up of 9 main parts: the heater core, heater hose, cooling jackets inside the block, water pump, thermostat, a fan clutch on rear-wheel drives, or fan motor on front-wheel drives, the upper and lower radiator hoses, and the radiator. There are 2 simple things you can do to prevent your engine from overheating. First, get your cooling system flushed on a regular basis. And second, check your coolant level every time you check your oil. Flushing helps keep the system clean and prevent corrosion. Most manufacturers recommend having it done about every 2 years, but when exactly will depend to some extent on the type of car you drive and the weather conditions you're driving in. You should check your coolant level at the same time you check your oil, about every 3,000 miles. And while you're at it, have a look at the radiator hoses and clamps. If the hoses are old or starting to crack, you get them replaced right away. If you notice any loose clamps, you can easily tighten them yourself using a screwdriver, or take them into a shop and have them done. If you find your coolant level is continually low, you may have a more serious problem. You should check for leaks in and around the radiator and freeze plugs. If you find a very small hole, a sealer additive might do the trick. If you aren't able to troubleshoot the problem yourself, have an expert look at it. I know a good mechanic.
Well, next, Tony's going to have a look at General Motors' newest minivan, the Oldsmobile Silhouette.
You just love those fantastic onion creations your favorite restaurant serves? Well, now you can make them yourself right in your own home. Introducing the Great American Steakhouse Onion Machine. It's easy, it's fun, and it's oh so onion delicious. You start with a nice large onion. The bigger the better. Trim and clean. Then use this special tool to remove the center. Place the onion under the stainless steel blades of your Steakhouse Onion Machine and push down. You'll have a perfect onion creation every time. Just dip it. You can cook it in oil or bake it in the oven. In no time, your onion is golden brown delicious, just like they serve in the restaurant. Bursting with beauty and bursting with flavor.
It's so easy to do, and the onions always come out perfect.
Don't confuse the Steakhouse Onion Machine with those hard-to-use plastic gadgets that only do small onions. What kind of a treat is that? With the Steakhouse Onion Machine, you can use the biggest onions you can find. It's the only onion machine that makes them just like the restaurants. Use it for a special treat that's sure to become the kids' favorite. And what a delicious conversation piece for your own parties. Why pay restaurant prices for your favorite onion creation? Make it yourself with the Steakhouse Onion Machine for less than $1. And enjoy onions like this any night of the week. It's even dishwasher safe. When you're through, your onion machine disassembles easily for convenient storage. The Great American Steakhouse Onion Machine is yours now for only $19.99. Guaranteed to make those fantastic onions just like your favorite restaurant. Call now and get this deep frying basket plus this colorful recipe book free. Order your Great American Steakhouse Onion Machine now.
To order the Onion Machine for only $19.99 plus shipping, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-694-0101. Or send check or money order to Onion Machine, 8 Telebrands Plaza, Fairfield, New Jersey. Sorry, no CODs, so call now. 1-800-694-0101.
Don't let this 55 Chevy fool you. There's enough under the hood to take on anything out there. And these two guys are always up for a little racing. James Taylor is the driver.
You can never go fast enough.
Dennis Wilson is the mechanic.
Just passing through.
And Warren Oates drives the GTO and agrees to the ultimate race.
I could suck you right up my tailpipe.
It's two-lane blacktop. Friday night on Speedvision's Lost Drive-In.
General Motors has not been a truly serious contender in the Chrysler-dominated minivan market, but that's changing now thanks to products like this. Last year, GM made a serious attempt to win back those lost minivan buyers with an all-new but more traditionally styled range of vans. Oldsmobile Silhouette, our test vehicle, the Chevrolet Venture, and Pontiac Transport are state-of-the-art minivans without question, but don't look for pointy noses or plastic panels. These vans are already outselling their predecessors, but I'd like to have seen those plastic panels all the same continued with a new range. It's nice to be able to forget parking lot dings in a workaday vehicle like this. GM stayed away from anything dramatic and stuck with a blend of styling cues from half a dozen rivals. All three vans have individual characters, and the Silhouette is the more upscale of the trio. In a welcome move towards simplification, just one engine is offered range-wide, but it's the one most buyers would probably choose. Under the Silhouette's stubby nose is a 3.4-litre V6 mated to a 4-speed automatic transmission. It develops 180 horsepower and provides impressively peppy performance for a minivan. There's a lot of European influence in this van's interior, probably due to Opel. We've got this infinitely adjustable seat back here with a knob. These fold-down armrests are very handy, very comfortable. And as befits the most luxurious of Chrysler's vans, this one has beautiful leather seating. And up here, there are separate controls for the sound system with 2 headphone jacks, so you don't have to listen to that headbanger music your kids like. You can also control temperature back here. As might be expected, GM has gone the 4-door route with its new vans. Our test van was equipped also with a very handy powered near-side sliding door. Instrument layout is an improvement on that found in rival Chrysler vans. Everything is on one panel with no separate strip of warning lights. The Silhouette and its stablemates are very car-like, and I'd put them right at the top of current design and performance in the minivan sector. The van proved fun to drive, very space efficient, well put together, and easy on the eye without being too radical. I should point out that GM's Astro and Safari minivans, which remain very popular, stay in the corporation's range. Silhouette, Venture, and Transport only replace the old Transport and Chevrolet's defunct Lumina APV. The Silhouette is much less expensive than what I consider to be its main rival, the luxurious Chrysler Town & Country. Venture and Transport run slightly higher than comparable Chrysler products, but GM says it's packing in more features to create a value-added package. 2 wheelbases are available, so just about any minivan buyer will be able to get exactly what they want. Sales reports indicate that GM's new vans are competing very strongly in a tough market sector. In my view, the Silhouette is the biggest competitor yet to Chrysler's luxurious Town & Country. Well, Ted, you've driven, as I have, all the upscale minivans. I think this is as good as anything out there, and it's not quite as expensive, as I've pointed out, as the Chrysler product.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the new GM minivans are every bit as good as Chrysler's. I don't think they're quite as competitively priced as Chrysler, but that's, you know, I guess that's debatable. I like the Silhouette a lot, with one important caveat. The seat system in this van is terrible, absolutely terrible.
You mean removing the seats?
Removing them, and especially putting them back in again. Removing them, anybody can do that, but try to put them back in again. Everybody that I know that drove this van had a hard time with those seats. I don't know what's wrong with the system, but it just doesn't work at all. They've got to redesign it.
Yeah, well, I've got to say that Chrysler has the best system in the industry for moving seats out of the vehicle, because they have little rollers on them, little wheels,
right?
And you undo the latches and you just roll them out. And even one fairly small person can do it. I agree that GM hasn't.
I was embarrassed. I mean, here's me, an automotive journalist with years of experience. I couldn't put the seats back in. I just kind of stared at them and said, I don't know how to do this. It was embarrassing.
Well, I guess there is familiarity at work here. I mean, if you owned one, you'd probably find out where the knack was, you know.
Theoretically.
But on the other hand, I think that if we are sort of guinea pigs in a way, and if we can't get them in, other people are going to have the same problem. But it does drive nicely, doesn't it?
It's very nice in every other way. Just for the sake of discussion, I would argue the point of having remote doors. I mean, they're kind of cool, but I see those breaking.
You mean the power sliding door?
Yeah, the remote power sliding doors. I see that system breaking in the future.
Well, I don't know about that, because anything can break, whether it's power windows or whatever, but I spoke to a couple of dealers who handle these vans. They've never had a failure with one of those.
My neighbor bought one, and when he brought it home, it was not working. It had to go back brand new. So, you know,
it can happen, but it can also happen with any other kind of system, you know. But I think as a touring van, for somebody who wants to be a little bit upscale, it makes a lot of sense. And I think the leather seating in the van, to me, was very, very good. Some leather seating I find in vehicles in this class is kind of token. It's leather, but it's some kind of split hide. But the seats seem to be very durable and nice, thick leather.
I'm glad to see that they've cut down on the number of cup holders, too. I think we're down to about 12 from a high of 24. Anyway, on that note, time to move on. As far as the Silhouette goes, we like it.
Now, the ultimate in extreme crash action has twice the excitement in this exclusive new 2-video set, Awesome Crashes and Motorcycle Madness. This action-packed set features some of the most awesome and devastating crashes you've ever seen. From the outlaw sprint cars to super bikes and powerboats, Awesome Crashes is just what the name says, awesome. And if you want motorcycle crashes, look no further. Motorcycle Madness has bone-chilling 2-wheel crashes that'll make your spine tingle. You get both action-packed crash videos for the incredible price of only $19.95. But if you order order within the next 30 minutes, we'll include Easter absolutely free. It's just what the name says, and it's free if you order now. You get all 3 incredible videos for the price of one, a $60 value. Yours for the next 30 minutes for only $19.95. The clock is ticking, so call now. To order, call 1-800-684-8866. That's 1-800-684-8866. Or send check or money order to the address shown. That's 1-800-684-8866. Call now.
Well, it's a good thing that Mazda have done such a good job on the 626 because this is a very, very competitive market. It's going to go against the likes of the Honda Accord, the Nissan Altima, Subaru Legacy, Chev Malibu. You might even throw the Volkswagen Passat in there. What I liked about it, styling. I think it's a nice, conservatively styled car. They've done a nice, tasteful job on it. I think it's well priced. Comfort level is very good, and you get good value for money. On the other hand, the 4-cylinder is down a bit on power. I would recommend a V6. And you can't get anti-locking brakes with a 4-cylinder model, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Nonetheless, I give this 5 out of 5 flags. I like this car a lot.
If you're in the market for an upscale minivan, it's a kind of a neglected segment. You've got the Chrysler Town & Country, I guess the king of that sector. And I suppose upscale models of the Ford Windstar. Things I liked about this van, a great ride and handling, really went very well. A powerful V6 engine, that was nice to have. Interior was very luxurious with leather. The controls are very well planned. It's a very roomy van, very roomy inside. And I like, of course, the 2 sliding doors, very versatile. And it's a little bit cheaper than a Chrysler Town & Country. Things I didn't like, well, I'm still mourning the lack of the plastic panels on earlier models. I just kind of like to have those back for parking lot dings and so on. But this is as good as a minivan can get, and I give it 5 out of 5 flags.
Somebody asked me the other day what I like least about cars. One thing that really drives me crazy. Well, here it is. The remote self-locking security device that many car makers are putting in their cars these days. I know the idea behind it, to protect occupants as soon as they close the door. You get in, it locks, and you're safe from the bad guys. But if you live where there aren't too many bad guys, this feature is a real pain in the neck. I find myself constantly locking and unlocking the doors just to get in and out of the damn car. And sometimes this so-called safety feature doesn't work at all. In a situation where you really do have to get in the car in a hurry, you're out of luck because the remote activator only unlocks the driver's side door the first time you press it, leaving the passenger standing there while you frantically press the key fob over and over again, locking and unlocking the car. Some German products are terrible for this. Now, I know this feature can be disabled, but not without an engineering degree. Look, I don't need a car to tell me when to lock and unlock the doors. I think I can figure that out all by myself quite nicely.
This year, I've driven in many areas of Canada and the US, as well as in Hungary, Italy, Sweden, England, and Germany. Like other drivers, I find it fun to study driving habits by region or country. I suppose it's unfair to generalize, but I'm pretty well confirmed that Germans drive fast but watch their mirrors, Italians drive tiny cars nose to tail and flat out, and the British feel obliged to motor as fast as they dare if they're piloting a Jaguar or something similar. The standards are very good in Sweden and Hungary, but some of the best driving I've seen this year has been in Washington and Oregon. Drivers in these states seem to have a sensible attitude towards the speed limits and almost always use proper signals for lane changes or freeway exits. I'm afraid to say that in my own home territory of British Columbia, the driving standards are awful. Why Pacific Northwest US drivers are better than average, I've no idea, but it'd be interesting to try and find out. If anyone has any pointers, let us know, and we'll try and air your comments on Inside Track. Andrew McAllister writes to us and asks, how can he get into this business? How did we get into this business? He's a car nut, and I'm a car nut too, but I have to say right from the start that it's really best to get into this business through journalism. It's best to study journalism somewhere, even if it's just an evening course of some kind, if not an advanced course, and trying to get a job with a local newspaper. Being a car nut usually isn't enough. It's essential for the job because unless you're enthusiastic about automobiles, you'll never really be able to write about them or broadcast about them. So my advice is learn a bit about journalism, get some sort of job in journalism, start a column maybe in your local paper, and who knows what can happen from there.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks for joining us. And join us next time on Inside Track. We'll put you in the driver's seat.
You can watch Ted and Tony's Inside Track on the internet at www.theautochannel.com.
We love to get your mail here at Inside Track, and we really do read every letter we get.
And here's how to reach us by mail or by email.